Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about some flaws with this car, the IS250 that I have here. And so let's just get straight to it and start at number one. Well, this is in no particular order, so we'll just get started at where we're starting right now. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are these rear seats here. And they do not actually fold down. So what I mean by that is that in even just like normal cars, these seats will come down. Having difficulty showing you the whole view here, but it's rather small back here. So what I mean is that these seats don't fall down. You know, they don't come down like this, and the only thing you get is this. The only access point you get to the trunk is this right here. And yeah, it's kind of lame, you know, it's small. I mean, what are you gonna fit through here? Like a snowboard? You know, if even that. So you're not going to get, these seats are not going to come down, and you're not going to be able to really maximize your space. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to mention. And so we'll just get to the other flaw of this car. And when I say flaw, I wouldn't say that it severely diminishes the it doesn't make me hate the car. I just think that they're small little flaws. So let's just get to the other flaw of this car that I notice. And maybe if you own an IS250 or even a 350, you know it as well. But this is specifically for IS250. And specifically, the next thing I mention is IS250 only related. So let's go inside and talk about the other thing. The other flaw, I guess you could say. And this might be a big one. It's the fact that this car only has horsepower, 205 horsepower, I believe, for the IS250. It is a 2.5 liter engine. And so if you own the trims above this, which would be the IS350 and the coveted and badass ISF, then, you know, I'm pretty sure that if you own those cars, you're probably laughing at us 250s right now, because 250 owners right now, because of our weak and puny little horsepower. But let me say this, the car is definitely not slow. I mean, I get a lot of people that tell me, well, they don't tell me, but like there's a Facebook group I'm a part of for owners of the Lexus IS of all generations, and they say that the IS250 in particular, like this one, is slow. And that, of course, is attributed to the 205 horsepower. And, you know, yeah, I do wish that this car had a little more power sometimes, but it's still quicker than my Corolla that I have, that I drive for, Uber and Lyft. So, yeah, I guess you could say it's kind of slow for a car of this class, you know, a luxury sports sedan, but it's definitely not a problem. I don't have problems passing people up, and I'm not a speed junkie anyway, so that's not really something that really concerns me very much. I don't need to go very fast. I just need reliable transportation, and that is it. And I get that with this car, so. But yeah, some people consider that a flaw is the horsepower that this IS250 gets. So one thing I do want to mention that is kind of a flaw is that this car is direct injection, meaning that you get, if you don't maintain it very well, like, you know, change your oil on time, specifically use synthetic oil or synthetic blend oil, and you don't change it on time, you don't use good quality gas, and you just don't pay attention to that, you're not aware of that, then what will happen is that carbon will build up on the valves. And I'll show you what those kind of look like right now. That's not for this specific car. This is just in general what a valve with carbon buildup looks like. So let me show you. So this car right now doesn't have this problem because I did actually clean it up a little bit. But I probably do have to do these cleanings consistently in the future. And if it gets really bad, just look up carbon. One way you could build up carbon buildup is something called walnut blasting, which is pretty extreme, but that would be, if it gets really bad, then you would definitely need to do that, because these engines, if they get too bad, if the carbon buildup gets too bad, you have something, the performance doesn't, the performance just kind of diminishes. You get problems with, just acceleration feels rather sluggish. You may have a check engine light on associated with the fact that one of your cylinders is misfiring. And that's never really a good thing because, it's a nuisance. And as well, that gets kind of scary when you see the check engine light on, right? That could be either a very minor problem or a severely major one. But yeah, carbon buildup is a flaw. And I think it might, I'm not doing these flaws in particular order. I'm not really listing out these flaws in specific order here, as you could tell, but it's something that is a major flaw, I would say. I wish that Lexus would have made the IS350 trim and above, because that has direct and port injection, meaning that gasoline will spray on top of the valves there and kind of clean it off. And those engines are rock solid. That's not to say that the IS250 is not reliable. It's just, it is extremely reliable. So let me tell you that right now. If you are on the market for an IS250, do not shy away from the fact that this is direct injection. You just gotta clean it. You gotta keep an eye on that, and just you gotta be vigilant about that. You do not want it to get caked up like I showed you in that picture, because you could run into some severe problems if it does get that bad. But as I said, as I was just saying a minute ago or so, yeah, change your oil consistently, synthetic blend or synthetic. Be sure you change it on time. You don't want to have these problems, these carbon buildup issues, to get really severe. So let's just go on to the final flaw. And this may be a short video. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be as I'm filming this now, but there's not a lot of flaws to this car, I will say. I've actually had trouble listing them out, but let's just get on to the next thing that I think is kind of like a flaw when it comes to this car. And this is going to apply for the IS350 and ISF as well. Let's get straight to it. The next thing I want to mention is something that may not be a flaw, but I have seen on that Facebook group that I'm a part of, people mentioning this. So I was debating if I was going to include this, but I'm just going to include it anyway, I guess. And that has to do with these the tires here. And the tires, you cannot rotate these tires at all, especially if they're directional. But in this case you can, but you could only rotate the front, like right to left, and same applies to the back. And the reason why is something called staggered setup, which means that these tires right here are not going to be as wide as the tires in the back. Now, if you have an all-wheel drive system, let me know if all your tires are the same width, or if all your wheels are the same. I always get that confused, tires and wheels. I got to work on that. But yeah, let me know if you have an all-wheel drive system. Let me know if your tires are kind of the same in the front and the back. So yeah, you can't rotate these, especially if they're directional. In this case you can, but for some people, they say, oh, it's expensive to maintain these tires because can't rotate them and they kind of wear down a little faster. But that's not necessarily true, because these tires right here are actually high performance tires. You can see they say Sport Technology right there, Sport Plus Technology. And so these, according to where I got it from, and I got it from Discount Tire, about 50,000 miles, I believe. I forget the exact number, but it was somewhere around there. So yeah, tires can get expensive. And I do know that if you own one of the higher trim models, like especially the ISF, you're going to eat through tires, because that thing has a lot of power. And so you put a lot more stress on these tires here. But anyways, that's just a little brief thing. Maybe that's not a flaw, but I'll just put it in there anyway. So let's go back in the car and I'll mention some closing remarks. I don't have a lot of things to point out in this car that's that I would really consider a big flaw, except for maybe that one thing I mentioned about the horsepower. But for the most part, this car is very reliable. It's very dependable. So, you get any Lexus, you're going to depend, that's going to be something that you could rely on is that it's going to be very good transportation to get you from point A to point B, and in style, nonetheless. This is a very stylish car, so that's a big pros versus an actual cons. But yep, that's all I got to say about this car. Lexus makes rock-solid cars. If you're willing to spend extra money on a Toyota, essentially this is a Toyota, by the way. It's just a fancy Toyota. But if you're in the budget, if you have the budget and the means to spend a little more on a car, then yeah, Lexus is definitely a safe bet compared to, say, BMW or Audi. And not to say that those cars are not reliable per se, but when they do have problems, the maintenance on those cars are going to be a lot more expensive. But yeah, thank you for watching this little video here. And if you're subscribed, thank you so much. And if you're not, consider doing so. And until then, I'll see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Take care now. God bless, and ta-ta.